Okay, so good morning, good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's edition of Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. Today's session, we are going to introduce a quiz, poll-based quiz, so that all of you can participate. No competition, because what we have observed is when we do Kahoot, it's an interesting way. But then more than 50% of the participants, they get cut out. Technology wise, they cannot participate. So we'll do it so that everybody can participate, make it a little interactive. So this is just the first of the many we will do going forward. So, and then we will cover the topic where we left off yesterday. And then of course, we'll have a few more things towards the end as well, because we have a hard stop at 9. So let's get started by invoking the blessings of God and Guru, and then we will launch. Maybe let me see, maybe launch poll later, or because we want everybody to be there, right? So anyways, let's get started with our opening prayers. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. All right, Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening, everyone. So let's get started. I think poll we'll probably do a little later. Let me cover some of the stuff today. By the time everybody would have joined, and then we can have a more interactive segment. I think we will get enough time. So let's get started. This is what we are going to have today. We are going to pick up on where we left yesterday. This topic will discuss which diet is more conducive. And then, of course, the poll-based quiz that I've spoken about, we'll do that as well. So, sorry, out of course, out of syllabus stuff has come up. All right, no worries. We'll probably pick up few hats and then get started with the shloka that we've been doing. Yagya Shishtashina Santo Muchyante Sarva Kilvishe Bhunjate Te Tvagham Papa Ye Pachanyatma Karanat. All right. Do we have anybody who wants to recite today?
Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Yajna santo muchyante sarva kilbishai bhunjate te tvagham papa e pachantyatma karanat. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Okay.
Radhe Radhe, Sandhya ji.
Radhe Radhe, Sandhya.
Radhe Radhe. Yagya Shishtashinah Santo Muchyante Sarva Kilbishai Bhunjate Te Tvagham Papa Ye Pachantyatma Karanat.
Very nice. Thank you, Sandhya.
Radhe Radhe, Uday ji, please go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. Yagna Shishtashinah Santo Uchante Sarva Kilbishaiha Bunjate Te Tvagam Papa E Pachantyatma Karanat. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Sumesh ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe Nitin ji, Radhe Radhe everyone. Yajna Sishtashina Santo Muchyante Sarva Kilvishaihi Bhunjate Te Tokham Papa Ye Pachantyatma Karanat. Radhe Radhe.
So there are a lot of hands, Nitin ji. How many should we pick?
Okay, we will pick up the last 3 and then we freeze it.
Okay. Radhe Radhe Aparna ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe Nitinji and everyone. Yajna Shishta Shinai Santo Muchante Sarva Kilbishay Bhunjate Te Twagam Papa Ye Pachantyatma Karanat. Radhe Radhe.
Wonderful. All right, last two.
Radhe Radhe Sam ji.
Radhe Radhe. Yajna Shishta Santo Muchante Sarva Kilbishe Bhunjate Te Tvagam Papa Ye Pachantyatma Karanat. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Okay, last one or last two. Okay, we'll make an exception. Let's freeze it after this.
Radhe Radhe Lakshmi ji.
Radhe Radhe everyone. Yajna Shishtashinam Santo Muchyante Sarva Kilbisha Bhunjate Te Tvagam Papa Ye Pachyatma Karanat. Radhe Radhe.
Lakshmi, thank you very much. All right, last one, not the least, Riya ji.
Radhe Radhe Riya ji.
Radhe Radhe. Yajna Shishtasina Santo Muchante Sarva Kilbishaihi Bhunjate Te Tvagam Papa Ye Pachyatma Karana.
Very nice.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you, Riya ji. Okay, so let's get started. So Lord Krishna is saying spiritually minded who eat food that is first offered in sacrifice are released from all kinds of sins. Others who cook food for their own enjoyment, they verily eat sin or verily eat only sin. We spoke about this topic yesterday. However, there was one thing which we did not cover, which is the question that may arise whether we can offer non-vegetarian items to God and then accept the remnants as his prasad. Okay, we spoke about that hunter story as well. God eats bhav, not the food. So then, of course, it begs the question, should we, now if we are in occupation of being a butcher or hunter, that's a different thing. But in general, is it a good practice to offer non-vegetarian to God? Let's talk about that. So the answer to this question is that the Vedas prescribe a vegetarian diet for humans, okay, very clearly, which includes grains, pulses, beans, vegetables, fruits, dairy products. Okay, now that might open up a can of worms here, right? Vegan people will come back and say this and that. That's fine. We'll leave that discussion for now. But yes, dairy products are permissible, okay? Cow is called mother for a reason, and these days it's a little different, but then anyways, apart from Vedic culture, many spiritually evolved, if you look at the souls and the history of cultures around the world itself, we are going to look at some of the famous quotations around that. They also rejected non-vegetarian, and it makes the stomach a graveyard for animals. Okay, graveyard for animals when you do that. Now, even though some of these were born in a tradition where the staple food itself is flesh, you are born and brought up to that concept. It's a very, very staple food, right? It's like the way we eat dal chawal, the bread and other things. It's part of the staple diet. So they still, even though being born in such traditions, they rejected that when they had a awareness. They gravitated to a vegetarian lifestyle as they advanced on the path of spirituality. I'll pick up a few quotations from some famous thinkers and personalities, and let's see what they had to speak about vegetarianism, or what they had to say about non-vegetarianism. Okay, so let's look at some of those. Let's start with Buddha. To avoid causing terror to living beings, let the disciple refrain from eating meat. Okay, this is directly coming from Buddha. The food of the wise is that which is consumed by the sadhus. It does not consist of meat. It comes from Buddha himself. By the way, ironically, some of the biggest eat-meaters in the world are Buddhists right now. And it is said, I think one of the disciples was going around Bhiksham Dehi and a meat piece fell from, I think, maybe eagle released it or from a window, and they said it is acceptable to do that. However, ahimsa param dharam. So in order to get around that, cow or something is pushed out of the hill, and when it dies dead, then that can be consumed. So anyways, people did resort to workarounds, but this is coming directly from Buddha, who's saying that it should not consist of meat. Now, what does the Roman Plutarch said? Roman Plutarch said, if you declare that you are naturally designed for such a diet, first kill for yourself what you want to eat. However, through your own resources, unaided by cleaver, cudgel, or any kind of axe. So if you were to do it yourself, half of the 90% of the people who eat meat will give it up. If you were to kill that, it comes nicely dressed up and packaged for you. And we simply put it in a, whatever pressure cooker or wherever, or just bake it and eat it. But then if you were to do it end to end, whole 9 yards of procuring that, it will put it in perspective that you cannot have it. By the way, the biggest companies here, I think Tyson, which provides, Tyson, and there's another one here, at least in US, 70 to 80 to 90% of the meat is provided by them. They have banned people coming into their culling, because if you go and see what happens there, you will say anything but meat. Okay, it's like our mind conveniently ignores that aspect because it comes nicely packaged, dressed for you in shopping malls, and it's very convenient. But if you see the process around it, it's very gory. Okay. Anyways, there's a documentary, Food Inc. If you want to see, check it out. It's like, you can understand. Pythagoras, what did he say? He said that as long as men massacre animals, they will kill each other. Indeed, he who sows the seed of murder and pain cannot reap joy and love. This is what came from Pythagoras. Then Thomas Edison, what did he say? He said non-violence leads to the highest ethics, which is the goal of all evolution. Unless we stop harming all living beings, we are all savages. Thomas Alva Edison. It is a direct quote from him. Leonardo da Vinci, what does he say? He says, truly man is the king of beasts, for his brutality exceeds them. We live by the death of others, we are burial places. I have since an early age abjured the use of meat. By the way, when I was in Phoenix, we had a friend, we still have a friend. His name was John. So he started reading Bhagavad Gita with us. And when he came across this particular verse talking about non-vegetarianism, and I think one of the quotations Swamiji in one of his lectures has said that making it a graveyard for your stomach. Believe it or not, he stopped eating it. Okay, the day he came across the verse, he just stopped eating it, even though he was brought up to that concept of eating meat. He just gave it up. It was so hard hitting for him. Previously he used to believe that what goes inside the mouth is not as important as what comes out of it. That means your behavior, what you talk, how you go around talking to people, that is more important than what you put in. But he said after that, I couldn't get myself to eat it at all. Okay, so that was the impact of this teaching or learning that he had from this verse and, listening to Swamiji's lecture. Then let's look at few more. Flesh eating is simply as immoral as it involves the performance of an act which is contrary to moral feeling. Leo Tolstoy said that. Adam Smith said it may indeed be doubted whether butcher's meat is anywhere a necessary of life. Decency nowhere requires that any man should eat butcher's meat. Now, these are the quotations which have been picked up from all the Western philosophers. Okay, they are not coming from Swami Sarvapriyanand, Swami Dayanand Saraswati, Swami Shivanand and all, just so that you understand that these are coming from Westerners themselves who had an awakening around this concept, and they are not ordinary people, great philosophers and all. Okay, George Bernard Shaw, he said, I look at my age, it is the other people who look older than they are. What can you expect from people who eat corpses? Okay, he said corpses much. Then J.H. Kellogg, he said, a dead cow or sheep lying in a pasture is recognized as carrion. The same sort of carcass dressed and hung up in a butcher's stall passes as food. So anyway, people have just, Albert Einstein, what he said? He said, it's in my view, the vegetarian manner of living. Its purely physical effect on human temperament would most beneficially influence the lot of mankind. Jaisa an vaisa man, our temperament is dictated by the kind of food we eat. And Mahatma Gandhi had said, I do feel that spiritual progress does demand at some stage that we should cease to kill our fellow creatures for the satisfaction of our bodily wants. It is not a need, it's actually a greed. This whole logic about protein deficiency is overplayed. A lot of athletes are actually resorting to vegetarian and even vegan diets. Virat Kohli is the most recent one. In fact, there are a lot of, I can refer to you one of the videos which talks about how plant-based diet is actually helping a lot of athletes as well. Now, these are some of the people quotations from that. Now let's look at it a little bit from a scientific perspective as well, just to put it in perspective. Other considerations. 1 pound of grain needs about 25 gallons of water. Okay, that much resource intensive it is when you go for 1 pound of grain that we eat, 25 gallons. 15 pound of grain, which is 7 kg, it produces 2 pounds of beef. That is 1 kg. You can imagine 15 into 25 gallons are needed. That would be how much? 250 plus 75, 325 gallons of water to produce 1 kg of meat. How resource intensive it is on earth. 4.4 pounds of grain, 2 kg so of chicken. 1 pound of beef needs about 1847 gallons of water, 39 filled bathtubs. A lot of water, right? This is how much resource. 1 pound of chicken needs about 518 gallons of water. 1 pound of pork needs about 576 gallons of water. Anyways, too much of resources. Another example, let's look at it. Carnivorous animals, what do they do? They use their tongue to regulate their body temperature. People, not the species which are naturally designed to eat meat, they have sharp canines and they use their tongue to regulate their body temperature. Okay, that is one of the characteristics of species which are naturally designed to eat meat. Not nicely dressed up, you come, cook, boil, put masala, chicken tikka masala on top of it and have it. Okay, these are the naturally the species. The second one is they have shorter intestines to prevent putrefaction of food. In fact, modern science has linked red meat consumption to the cancer, colon cancer as well. So there are enough signals. I mean, if you want basically negate that, that is a different thing. But there are a lot of signals. Scriptures say that, big philosophers have said that, and physiologically also you will get enough indication that human body is not meant for meat consumption. And like it is said, jaisa an vaisa man, when you kill in the culling places where you cut chickens or cows, culling is like there's a big thing that it'll come, it'll hit its head, and because of that it loses consciousness, and then it'll go to the supply chain, head is cut, and then it starts getting cut, nicely packaged and dressed up. Just imagine the fear in the animal at that point, the kind of hormones it produces. It all goes into its body, and that is what we end up consuming. So it will have a bearing on our consciousness as well. Right? Like they say, hinsak pravritti comes when we start eating this kind of a stuff. But then we had the fastest vegetarian bowler as well, by the way, Javagal Srinath, and people used to mock him. Go eat chicken or beef, if you really want to add some more hard yards to it. But now we are seeing more fast bowlers are coming up. It's more psychological than anything, but I don't know how far it is true where you need to have this kind of a diet to really become good at sports or excel in sports. But maybe that's kind of a stereotype that is associated with it. So these are some of the reasons around this, Jasayan Vesaman. But of course, it is difficult for people who are brought up on this diet, but people, when they have an awakening, a lot of people actually revert that as well. In fact, when I was doing my master's MBA, I had a friend. It was an interesting story. He went to China and he used to eat a lot of steak, beef. He went to China, he saw a lot of things there, and he lost interest. He said, no, I cannot touch meat anymore. So he stopped eating meat. And then one day we went out, I think for one of our college happy hours, and I saw this guy happily munching over a steak. I said, what happened? He said, you know what, I stopped eating meat for about, 7-8 months. And then I said, then what happened? He said, then you know what? One day I felt hungry. So his pravrti came back and said, hungry, that's it? He said, yeah. So, and then she said, nothing like a juicy steak. So people come back to that. But the point here is, when you really think deeply about this concept, moreover, it is said that even if you look at Swamiji's lecture anywhere, it doesn't say don't eat it. You can eat it, but then it is not conducive for a spiritual journey. It can put your spiritual journey a little back, because if you are truly meditating, I'll tell you, if you are advancing in meditation, you would realize the day you have messed up with your food, okay, your dhyan or your focus of your mind that day would take a, you will realize something is missing today. That much how impactful the food is. So people who are very mindful of it, in fact, Vaishnavas, if you look at some of the ISKCONs people, they go to the extent of preparing their own food, because the consciousness in which it is prepared has a bearing on our mind as well. The consciousness, and if you start eating food from a hand of a criminal, you may start having those tendencies as well. That is where consciousness is very important. So we got to be careful about what we are eating, because that has a bearing on our spiritual journey. So if you have made a lot of advancement in meditation, in your sadhana, in those sattvic bhavs, and all of a sudden you start consuming it, you'll see your bhav will also start getting changing. That is how impactful it is. Okay, so that was a quick thing on this aspect. Then can we offer meat to God or not? Now we want to move on to, I'm going to stop share. We can come back to the discussion, because we want to do a quick survey to test out your knowledge of how much you are grasping what we have spoken about in the last few sessions. So I would like to hand it over to Rahul to get started, launch the polls, and then we can come back and have a quick discussion on some of the stuff that we spoke about as well. Rahul, all yours.
Yeah. Radhe Radhe.
So we're going to post some questions, and these questions are going to change your life, okay, when you answer that. So we'll do a quick survey and have a bit of a interaction around it. This is how we will recap knowledge from time to time, because playing Kahoot, 50% of the people, they get, they are not able to participate, or they feel some technological challenge, but it's a good way to revise your knowledge. And so over to you, Rahul. We can pose some of the questions that you have prepared for today.
Yeah, so the poll consists of 4 questions. Once I launch that, I can't see that. So maybe one of the participants can confirm that they're able to choose that option.
No worries.
Let me try to launch it.
Okay, the first question is this the increasing order of bhavs in terms of intimacy with God? Shant bhav, dasya bhav, sakhya bhav, madhurya bhav, and vatsalya bhav. Is it true or is it false? Are you able to pick an option? Okay, good. I think we have multiple questions, and then we can see the answers later. You can take your time. Second one is, queens of Shri Krishna loved Krishna in which madhurya bhav? Samartha Rati, Sadharani Rati, Samanjasya Rati, or all of the above? Then we have decreasing order. You can take your time, maybe 5 minutes to complete the poll, and then we can get back to it. We end the poll, look at the results, and have a talk about it, because we spent a lot of time on bhavs and bhakti and the levels of bhakti. So it's a good way to recap some of that knowledge now.
I hope you are able to scroll down, because there are 4 questions. Yeah, my screen can be really different from.
Yeah, if you're not able to scroll down, then you need to try harder. Okay, you should be able to. All right, all of you should be able to participate. So we'll give you about 5 minutes to finish it off. 7%, 8% have participated. I think all of you can take your time. We have 90 plus participants today.
Yeah, I think there was a typo in the 4th question when we were putting that. I think 2 options are same, but ignore that. It should be okay.
No worries, that's fine.
Yeah.
This is the first quiz, so everything is maaf today. So by the way, Rahul is going to be our official quiz master. He will be the Siddharth Basu of Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. So look out for more quizzes. We will be creating a lot of quizzes and testing your knowledge from time to time.
I think all the concepts have been very clearly explained by Nitinji. I'm just repeating those questions.
Yeah, it's a reality check for me as well. Okay, how well I've been able to explain, or how unwell I've been able to explain. So we'll see in the results. Okay, it's a moment of truth for me as well. Then the results are coming soon.
About 40 people have participated, so I think it would be good to.
And abstaining from voting is not allowed. Like happens like in Indian Parliament, some people abstain. That is not allowed. Everybody has to participate because we have we are not using Kahoot anymore, which although exciting, but for some reason participation is very less. But this is a good way. I think all of you can participate. I can see 54%. So we are halfway through, nearly halfway through, a little over halfway through. So all of you can take your time and fill it up. And I can see already split verdicts coming, true, false. All the bhaktis are coming in the answer, and all answers are coming. So this is good. This is what we want actually.
There is a question in the chat that what does zenith mean? That means it's peak or highest, whatever you want to say.
Yeah. So Rahulji, in addition to creating a Bhagavad Gita test, he has created an English test also. So zenith also you need to know. Zenith means peak, epitome of something. Good. I think we are getting all these choices, which is good. Basically, a little bit of controversy is needed here. Okay, that will help drive some of the discussions today. But this is good. I think good way to test your knowledge, how much you have been able to grasp in the sessions. And we'll try to make it a little tricky down the line. This is the first time I think Rahul, he has been a little lenient, but typically he's very strict. Okay, and throws a lot of curveballs along the way. All right. So 56, 57. Okay, I think we'll give about another a minute.
Yeah.
Minute or two.
So Prakashji, do you have a comment or a question?
Both. None. Surya Prakashji, thank you for changing your mind.
No, I wanted, you will give the answers, na, sir?
That will be suspense. That is the whole fun of this game.
No,
it is not the answer exactly. You may be clearing your doubts, if at all, in other way.
Of course. That's the whole idea. That's the whole idea. Yeah. We will give answers. We'll give about another minute for everybody to fill in, and then we'll get into that. See, what we'll do is, like, whatever we cover in a week, we will put a quick poll around it and have an interactive segment around it, so that if there are some gaps in understanding, we can fill that as well. And this way, everybody can participate. Kahoot, typically 50% of the people, they find it too intimidating. Okay, I don't know whether it is the colors of Kahoot or the music that plays. I find it exciting, but I've ever seen people have less than 50% participation. So I thought this is a better way of doing it. Okay, so maybe another few seconds and then we will wrap up the poll, because we have got at least 70% of the participants who have participated and decided to poll, which is good. So thank you for that. And let's give another few seconds and then we will wrap up the poll. Okay, I think we can wrap up the poll, Rahul, and let's get into the answers and a bit of a discussion around that as well.
Should I share the results?
Yes, please share the results as well. But this is good participation. 71% of you participated, which is outstanding. Are you sharing the results?
Yes, I think it is. Yeah, I'm not sure because my screen might be different from.
Okay, I don't know. Even I'm not seeing. I'm seeing. So results. Okay, let's talk about it. The first question was, is this the increasing order of halves in terms of intimacy with God? And somebody said true. Anybody who wants to raise their hand and say why they felt true? What made you choose true? I mean, let's have a discussion around it, because it's an important concept to understand. This would dictate your Roop Dhyan, because if you think this is true, you will say I'm doing the highest bhav, but it may not be right. So it's important to have the theory right. Anybody who wants to talk about it? Why did you choose true? Okay, I see a couple of hands. Yes, whoever chose true.
Radhe Radhe Surya Prakash ji.
I feel like if when we are close to the God, we means those who are having bhakti, those who are having shraddha, they will means close increase the bhav.
True, you are right for most part. I'll tell you why it was wrong. Okay, that is where slight trick was there. Yes, Samji, why did you choose that part? It was
Yeah,
actually false.
like in the Shant Bhav, like you are seeing a king or somebody from a distance, you Bhav comes in the marking, but you don't have the intimacy. As you keep on going up to the trick is that the Madhurya Bhav should be on the little bit top.
Yes.
So it's Vatsalya should be on the fourth position. Madhurya should be, oh, that I did not get that one, but I did put the right because based on the thing I thought they are in the sequence, but they are in the sequence.
Yeah.
So my slide trick is there.
It was slightly tricky because the last one we just need to swap that. So the way it goes is when we look at God as our king, that is the most distant relationship, subject-object relationship. That is the Shant Bhav. Closer than that is Dasya Bhav, where now you have a opportunity or a privilege to enter God's palace. Okay, although he's a king, but I can enter his palace and even touch his feet. That is Dasya Bhav. And that is from Dasya Bhav onwards, the Brajra starts. So Das has a privilege which is not available to Praja. So Das Bhav is more closer to God than Shant Bhav. Further than that is Sakha Bhav. Then Das can press the feet, but Das cannot put arm around God. So that becomes Sakha Bhav. Sakha Bhav is even more intimate than Das Bhav. Beyond Sakhya Bhav is the Vatsalya Bhav. Now the parents, they can tie up God and beat and scare them as well, right? So that becomes even more intimate than Sakha. Friend cannot do that. Friend may get punched back, but as a parent, you can always tie up as a kid. So Vatsalya Bhav is higher than Sakhya Bhav. And Madhurya Bhav is the highest where it is beloved. Beloved, we know, right? It's like you can pretty much practice any of the bhavs with your beloved. You can treat them like a friend, like a child, like a king, or like a master. And beloved is anyway there. So the Madhurya Bhav is the most intimate one. So for most part, it was right. The Vatsalya should have come before Madhurya, and that is why the choice was actually false. Queens of Shri Krishna love Shri Krishna, and which Madhurya Bhav? Now, everybody has answered everything, which is right. Anybody who said one of them only, or not? None of the 33 of you, more than 50% have gotten it right. All of you are right, actually, but the most right answer is all of the above, right? Because the difference between these bhavs is, the first one is the Sadharani Rati, where you love Lord Krishna for your sake. 0% Lord Krishna's happiness, 100% mine. We do that in the world as well, right? That is how that bhav is, which is called Sadharani Rati. The second one is Samanjasya Rati, where 50-50. Thoda tumhara, thoda hamara types, like the queens of Dwarka, Rukmini and all, they loved Krishna, not only for his sake, but for their own sake as well. And Samartha Rati is the highest one, which are gopis, where not even a trace of their own happiness, everything for happiness of Lord Krishna himself, which is called Tat Sukh Sukhitvam, TSS. Everything for your happiness only. So it is the highest level of sentiment a Jivatma can have, complete selflessness. And when you have that complete selflessness, then God becomes Bhakta Vashya. That means he becomes your slave. Just imagine the possibility. This Brahmanda Nayak, who has created this entire universe, who is the very basis of every entire existence, he is your slave at that moment. So that level of perfection, selflessness is needed, is what our scriptures tell us. Now, decreasing levels of bhakti, bhav bhakti, sadhan bhakti, siddha bhakti. Bhav bhakti, sadhan bhakti, somebody had said true. Answer is decreasing order, bhavan bhakti. So, I think so. I hope this concept is clear now. So this is how it goes. It starts with sadhan bhakti. It is actually, the answer is false. So majority of you have gotten it right, which is fantastic. 72% of you. It starts as a preparatory stage, sadhan bhakti, where we are preparing our mind, forcing it to God. It will not come naturally. You have to force it to God, which is called sadhan bhakti. Advanced level of sadhan bhakti is called bhav bhakti. It is still sadhan bhakti. You can divide it into three, but it is still sadhan bhakti where you are preparing. But what happens during bhav bhakti is now your mind is automatically gravitating towards God. The converse you have to do. You have to step back and bring it back to world to operate effectively. That is called bhav bhakti. And as you keep on progressing in your bhav bhakti, the zenith, the maybe next question was that comes to the, so basically the way the sequence goes is siddha bhakti, bhav bhakti, and sadhan bhakti, bhav bhakti, and siddha bhakti. So when you reach the peak of bhav bhakti, it is called siddha bhakti. That means siddha means you are a done deal. Siddha means like chawal siddha ho gaye, we say. Siddha means now it is cooked. And once it is cooked, it cannot come back to the original state. Similarly, once you get siddha bhakti, you are beyond Maya. Then you cannot come back to sadhan bhakti or anything. You are a done deal at that point. That is called siddha bhakti. And siddha bhakti also have different levels. Now this one, majority of people have, see, the good thing is majority of you have gotten the right answer in all of the questions, which is a good sign. Okay, like 72% of the people got right this one, 51 the previous one, more than 50 in all of them, and the last one, a majority of you, 68% got it right. The peak of siddha bhakti, even after God realization, there are different levels of bhakti that you can get. Okay, and the top one is called Mahabha bhakti, which is the one which is the topmost prize a soul or a jivatma can get. Beyond Mahabhav Bhakti is Madanakhya Mahabhav Bhakti, which is reserved for Radharani only. But Mahabhav Bhakti is the topmost Bhakti a Jivatma can get when they become completely selfless. It's all about God. Nothing, not even a trace of selfishness in their love. So that is the peak of Bhakti. So congratulations to people who got it right. And if you are 50-50 and you have some questions, we can discuss that. But I hope you got this concept really pakka in your head now. So with that, I will open it up for any questions that anybody has, either on the quiz that we did or on the presentation that I did talking about vegetarian and non-vegetarian. We can probably have a couple of hands because we have Urvi who's going to. So this is what I have showed: sadhan bhakti, bhav bhakti, siddha bhakti. We did that. And this is the different levels of bhaktis, right? Starting from prema bhakti all the way up to mahabhav bhakti, which is the peak of siddha bhakti that we spoke about. All right, anything on non-vegetarianism or the bhakti concepts that we have spoken about? We can have maybe a couple of questions before we move on to our next segment. By the way, I wanted to again let you know that we are going to be starting with the Seva initiative. In this initiative, we will form 4 teams. Seva, S stands for selfless, E will stand for enthusiastic, V will stand for Vinamra. Vinamra means humble. So 2 English, 2 Hindi. And A will stand for Ananya. Ananya means exclusive. So 4 teams we will form, and we will give you a very clear framework to do Seva, make it a priority or a commitment, whatever you can. And we'll have some kind of points just to incentivize you. We'll do it in honor-based system and in good faith, just to bring Seva to your routine, because we are scared about, Seva commitment and stuff like that. You'll see that it's not so difficult. And then get that, we'll be launching it pretty soon. If you have an interest, please fill out the feedback tracker. Say I'm interested. I have already gotten some names yesterday. But if you are still thinking, just put it in the feedback tracker and we'll split you across the teams, and we'll be launching it shortly. So do check it out, and it's a great way to get involved. Let's take some questions and then we'll move on to our next segment.
There is a question from anonymous person. It says that how did Westerners get those sanskars? are the Indians who practice spirituality in their previous births?
Yeah, possibly. See, it can happen actually. So you may have passed some scars around it, and you may have an awakening. We don't know why, for what reason we got born in some other tradition, but when they pick up really fast. So yeah, possibly they might have had Sanatan Dharam sanskars in their previous lives. These kind of things do happen. That is where reincarnation comes in, right? So they might have had sanskars which got triggered pretty early on.
Radhe Radhe Monica ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Monica ji.
Radhe Radhe Raju, Radhe Radhe Nitin ji. Radhe Radhe everyone. Sorry you're not coming on video because I'm driving. But I had a question, Nitin ji. So where does egg come into this situation? I mean, I know egg is also considered as non-vegetarian only. But let's say if someone is trying to, I mean, let me be a little direct here. I'm trying that. Arjun is saying pranam to you. Yes, so for the egg, where does this egg stand? Eating egg is also considered as
yeah, there is a vegetarians, then there are non-vegetarians, and then there are eggetarians, right? So it's a borderline thing, but yeah, I mean, typically it's probably tilting more towards non-vegetarianism rather than vegetarianism, because I haven't seen anybody, at least scriptures say, you know what, non-vegetarianism is not, but eggs are permissible or allowed, because typically what I've seen, people who are vegetarian, they shun that as well. But we can have a talk about that separately, because it's kind of the borderline thing we are having. But yeah, I mean, this is from a scriptural standpoint. But if your occupation and other things dictate that, like if a soldier has to survive and has to kill a snake or eat it, you know, as part of your duty, I don't know, that might be permissible. So it becomes very contextual at that point. But yeah, we can have that discussion on that, and plus other things that trouble people is, where does onion, garlic stand, right? Food, is it acceptable or not? We'll talk about that as well. All right. Yes, Prashantji, had a question. You had opened up the can of worms. So yes, please let me know if we did it bring a little bit of clarity to this topic today or not?
Thank you, Radhe Radhe. Actually, I am a bit confused, maybe more than 10 years in this particular aspect. Being in the religious family, I am quite, confused, and living in a hostel and coming to home, it is like fluctuating between veg and non-veg in my life. So I want to ask a question regarding the evolution. Being a science student and being a medical student, what I have, contemplated the whole time is that, when we are in the phase of, let's say, evolution, when we are like, animals, let's say, so in that process, in that particular progress, there were no any kind of vegetarian or vegan thing, right? We had to survive and we had to kill other animals to survive. And in that evolution, we didn't have food, and we must have to compete for food, right? So in that case, it was our survival instinct to get whatever we have. And I don't think there were any kind of cooking mechanism there at that time as well. So how would you describe in that particular realm?
So first of all, the theory of evolution, that's a topic in itself, right? And that has been rejected. Darwin theory is sun only rejected. So that is a different topic. As part of evolution, even scientifically, mathematically, how many mutations it would need to create something as sophisticated as our eye or retina, it's not possible. How many mutations have to fall in place? So that theory itself has a very shallow premise, okay, which has been rejected in most of the modern, even scientific circles now. But let's say hypothetically, that was part of evolution. Now we have evolved, right? Now we have evolved. So then we need to subscribe to higher knowledge and subscribe to things which our scriptures are telling us, right? So, but evolution, we can talk about it. Was it truly something that was needed? And then as part of now, if you talk to people who subscribe to meat eating, they would say it's part of their need. Their body needs it. One could argue, is it need or is it greed? Is it taste? Right? So our mind and intellect has a way to twist things to its own convenience. But our scripturally says that, see, other thing is, when you start progressing spiritually, these are some of the signals your body mind will start telling you. Okay, you don't need anybody's proof or anybody's thing. It's like you do the day you if you're starting doing practices and your dhyan and meditation and you start getting certain bhavs, the day you resort to some kind of an intoxication or this kind of stuff, you will realize the delta. So you don't need any other proof other than what your own experience will tell you this following day. So you can try it out. But our scriptures are very clear in that when you do that, it's not conducive for your spiritual growth. If you want to balance it out and see how far you can take, proceed with that, you can do that. But people who typically start evolving spiritually, they develop a natural aversion to these things. They don't even have to restrain it through their free will.
Mhm. Okay.
Automatically. Yeah.
Okay. I get your point, but regarding our teeth as well, we have variety of teeth, right? And regarding the canine teeth, it is a typical example of being like a carnivorous adaptation, right? We have canine teeth, we cannot deny that, right? Everyone has that. So it is for, incisors are for, biting, for tearing, but canines are for tearing the flesh, right? In the process of evolution, we have learned like that, and molars are for crushing and grinding, right? So in that particular case, how did the canine evolve like that? And in some people, we see very sharp canines, right? Like we say that as an atavistic character, but there are some atavistic features, right? The canines are very sharp of some individuals. So how can we actually deny that particular thing?
I don't know. Maybe they ate a lot of raw flesh in their previous life. I don't know. They're not. I don't know. That's only. See, stomach does not have teeth. So God has given us teeth with all kind of points and sharpened edges and molars and everything, so that we
Mhm.
can make it liquid and make it easy for our stomach. Are they
Mhm.
actually meant to dig into raw flesh? That is very
Mhm.
subjective. If some people have it, maybe they might have some past dealing to do, but typically, carnivores, like I said, they use their tongue to regulate their temperature and they have short intestines because your
Okay.
intestines are not meant to hold that stuff for long. It's not good for your body.
Well, okay. Thank you. And the next thing is, are we going to talk about the, sacrificial element of animals in the upcoming slides, or is it okay to discuss right
Sacrificial,
now?
we can talk a little bit about, like I said, the sacrifice is there at a particular time and all. Typically, an oath used to be taken that, I'm doing this, you will become a human, and but when I come, you will return the favor. But it is very misunderstood, right? And in modern yoga, basically, if you look at it, the animals, they get killed left, right, and center, and it was very prevalent at the time of Buddha, and that's where he said, let's just wipe this all Vedas thing through, right? So that sacrificial pratha, I mean, I can ask Swamiji more in contemporary context right now, but
Mhm.
ahimsa or hinsa to animals is forbidden. In some
Okay.
rarest of rare situations, it may be permissible, but other than that, it is forbidden. Even if you look at other traditions, if message is don't do it, they don't say have meat on this day. They say don't have it on a Friday. In India, they say okay, then don't have it on Tuesdays or Thursdays. Why are they not saying have it on Wednesday or Sundays? Messages don't have it. That is for people, at least discipline your mind. The key messages don't have it. The message is nowhere there. You need to have meat on this day. Even I think in other traditions also they say, don't have it on this day. It's like telling a chain smoker, moderate it, regulate it. So the message is wherever you go, whichever tradition you go, don't have it. But then it really depends on our upbringing and a lot of factors play into it. That is why it can become a touchy topic for a lot of people. But from a scriptural standpoint, if you have to keep this argument simple, saints have said that, scriptures say that it is not conducive for our spiritual journey. But you don't even have to rely on that. I'm saying your own experience when you have this would tell you something has changed or something is changing. Your pravrti will start changing, your dhyan, you will not get the same thing. It just pushes you back by a factor. In fact, saints, they are so careful that they don't even, it's like, okay, you are making progress and you are thrown back a few years. Why would you do that? They understand that part. So they refrain from such things. Nothing that can derail their spiritual journey or set them back on this path. Okay, we'll take the remaining hands. Urvi, up to you. You wanted to share something today, and then we'll get to the other questions. I can see a few more hands, but I'll wanted to give a fair amount of time to Urvi.
Radhe Radhe Nitinji. So Urvi said that she won't be able to, but I can present on her behalf. I can
Okay,
share
sure.
the.
We can do that, and then we can take the remaining. We still have 10 minutes, so we have enough time.
Yes. Okay, I'll start sharing my screen.
Sure.
Do you see this?
Yes. Of course.
Okay, wait, and also
We can't hear it.
Yeah, now you can?
Now we can.
Okay. So this is about the daily activity tracker. So many of you might know, and for those who don't, we have come up with a document which is called Daily Activity Tracker, on which we have 2 tabs. One is for an activity that I will do on a regular basis, and another is for an activity that I will not do. So this is about making good habits and breaking bad habits. And many of us have signed up for it. And today we want to cheer those who have really done very well in the past month of January. So Deyasini ji, Manish ji, and Nilesh ji, kudos to you. They have very sincerely followed the activities that they will do. As you can see, out of 54, I think 54 are correct attempts and 5 times they failed. So, and similarly for Manishi and Nilishi. So wonderful. You guys are inspiring all of us. And then among things I won't do, again, Manish ji, he's rocking everywhere. Jyoti ji and Swati ji. So congratulations to all of you. And next, we have a special mention, the most attempts, that is by Deyasini. Deyasini ji, congratulations for doing most attempts, which is 100. Wow, so like it's a century. So yeah, great. Thank you all of you. And that's it, this presentation, I guess. Yeah.
Wonderful. So announcements, we want to make quickly announcements. I wanted to tell you about the family camp that is coming up. I can't emphasize on it anymore. I mean, much more than that. I would love to do that, but then do take a look at that and make out time for that if you can. And the second one is we do have a Seva Sadhana week coming up from March 5th. Okay, that's going to be a wonderful opportunity for people who are in Dallas, or even if you can come over. It's going to be 5 days of Shant, just do sadhana and do seva and immerse yourself in kirtan. So it will be a good way to have some kind of an immersive spiritual experience. Something similar to family camp that we have to do. Check it out as well. And then of course we have Mahashivratri coming up. We are going to celebrate Lord Shiva's marriage as well in our typical RKT style. Okay, so if you're in or around, do come over. Okay, those are the quick announcements. Yes, now let's take a few hands since we have 7 more minutes to conclude our discussion, because we have a hard stop at 10 today.
There are a lot of comments and questions in the chat, so we might not be able to take all of them. But there is a common question on onion and garlic, like why it is not included in the sattvic diet, or even though it has medicinal benefits, and why we avoid it during fasting and all those kind of things.
Yeah, they consider tamasic and rajasic, right? But then from a medicinal standpoint, it is good. So depending upon your intention, why you are taking it, that defines its use. Okay, if you are generally having it for the sake of taste, yes, it actually qualifies the category that it is in. But if you take it from a medicinal standpoint, mix it in your food like you mix turmeric, thinking, looking at its medicinal aspect of it, it's perfectly okay. But if you're doing it because I can't have food if I don't have 6 or 7 garlics or 5 or 6 pieces of onions in it, that is a different thing. Now you're getting into rajasic and tamasic mode. But if your intent is I need to maintain a balanced stuff in my body, and it has medicinal, the cholesterol and other things it does, and you take it sparingly, purely from that standpoint, absolutely no harm. Okay, even if you offer it to God, absolutely no harm. Okay, that is the difference between Vaidhi and Raganuga Bhakti, by the way. You are not so rule driven. In that sense, doesn't mean, and people become in temple, you're talking about onion, garlic, but the point is you don't use it just for the sake of your taste and that pleasure. But from a medicinal standpoint, if you are clear and it's not something that you can't have food without, and it's used in that sense, it's perfectly acceptable. Swamiji has said that, by the way, very clearly. Right? Some of the ISKCON people, they say that people say that if you have food at restaurant, it is not, because you typically have food in the consciousness in which it is prepared, so you don't have food outside. But the point here is when you start getting so much hung up in rituals, you lose the essence of it. Rather, if your mind is in God and you can focus on that, these things have very minor effect on our, very minor effect. Okay. Yes, if you are getting into intoxication and putrefied meat and stuff, that is a different thing. But other than that, it does not have any much significance as such. Now, if your occupation demands it, if you are in a Siberia and all you have is meat, that is a different thing, right? That much concession even God makes. Or if you are in army, you are stuck in a forest and all you can survive on is meat, that is a different thing. But if you're having it because it's my taste buds which crave for it, even though I may have some other choices, then it's a different matter. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, there is one more comment in the chat. Eggs are not allowed as they are unclean, as it is from the reproductive cycle of the hen.
Eggs are considered in that category. Very true. Because this onion garlic question keeps popping up, right? And people are so hung up on that, with temple and this and that. But I just wanted to put it in perspective because I've heard it multiple times from Swamiji on this topic. So, but they say, like, for behavioral competence and for the sake of larger manyatas and stereotypes associated with it, it's better to err on the side of caution. Okay, don't become that, okay, that is everything is okay, so we'll do that. And you do exercise the same restraint like people would honor, right? Because people will not get into that aspect of it. They will look at it at the face value. So it's better to refrain from it at holy places so that, you don't cause some kind of a controversy around it.
Radhe Radhe. Okay, I have 3 small questions, but the time is running out. I'll just quote the questions. So in the coastal areas and Kashmiri Pandals and all those border areas where the seashore is there, they eat fish and everything. Later on, you can explain it. And other question is, India is one of the, they say, largest exporter of beef. How it happened to be? And other than, like the Raja Maharajas and Bhisham, when they go for shikar, obviously they will be killing the birds and everything. And what happens to that one? Who eats that one? And I heard that even Bhisham, during the young age, or maybe otherwise also, he was eating meat and all those things, like all the kings and queens.
I'll have to check with Swamiji. Our Kshatriyas, I think they are permitted to do akhet. Akhet, they used to say, right? To hone the skills, they will go out and do shikar, basically. I'll have to understand that concept a little deeper. I'll ask Swamiji, but we'll get back to that topic. But point I'm saying is, the proof is in the pudding. If you are spiritually, trying to make a difference, your own experience will tell you that there are certain things you need to stay away from, because you will see your dhyan is not getting where it used to be when you start resorting to even tamasic food, even the food that is stored for a while. So your own experience would start telling you that, there's something you need to refrain from. Maybe last we can take, we have time. So 2 minutes, one question, and then hard stop. We can continue. Sam, you can maybe put in the question. We can continue our discussion in our next session.
I can
unmute.
Ramyaji.
Yes, Radhe Radhe. When I saw the family camp site, it was only in person. Last year we had it online, so wanted to check if there is online this year as well.
I think it'll open it up for online as well, but I'll check it out and confirm it back to you, Shramya.
Right now it is not open, but usually it opens within 1 month or 2 weeks period. So yeah, please, we will announce that once it opens for online payments.
Okay, thank you.
Great. So okay, good discussion. I think we covered everything, right? Pretty much everything that we had on agenda. Fill out the feedback tracker for that Seva thing. I look forward to seeing that, and have a blessed weekend and a great rest of your evening. And I look forward to seeing you next week, and stay back for the book club. And Radhe Radhe from my side. Over to you, Sunil Bhai and Ajay. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you, Nitin Bhai. Thank you, Sanjay ji. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Rahul ji. Wonderful session as always. So much information. So